a fresh breeze in your face, stunning landscapes all around you, the vibration of the machine beneath you, and that awesome roaring sound in your ears. That's how we know motorcycling. But the future might look, or rather sound, different, quiet. But is that still real motorcycling? Does an electric drivetrain take away all the emotion, or does it have a unique appeal of its own? To find out, we're diving into the world of electric bikes and heading to Reload Land in Berlin, Europe's first electric motorcycle festival.
For many people, motorcycling is all about that amazing sound and feeling the vibration of the bike. Or can it work differently? Today, we want to check whether electric motorcycles can be just as emotional as combustion bikes. So far, I've only ridden traditional motorcycles, so I'm really curious about the riding experience and whether these electric machines can convince me.
We're spending an action-packed event day in Berlin, checking out the most exciting bikes, talking to manufacturers and organizers, and of course, putting the bikes through proper test rides. The electric motorcycle market is still far less developed than the electric car market. The selection is limited. Some of the best-known manufacturers include Zero Motorcycles from the US and Harley-Davidson's Livewire brand. Major established motorcycle brands only offer a few electric models, often focusing on scooters. Besides the perceived lack of emotion, many riders are also put off by the limited range. But now the fun sport brand Can-Am is entering the electric two-wheel market with two models, the Enduro Origin and the Pulse for urban riding. We'll be taking a closer look at the city cruiser shortly. Our day begins near Berlin Airport. From here, we head out with other journalists for a short ride around the capital.
This is actually my very first ride on an electric motorcycle. I'm super curious, especially about the missing sound. I really want to see how that feels, how it handles, how it accelerates, where the differences are. Let's go!
After a short briefing, we're off. Almost an hour later, our first stop.
From the very first few kilometers, I have to say, I don't miss the sound as much as I thought I would. There's still a kind of soft whirring and wind noise. What's really weird, though, there's no clutch and no gear shifting. That feels strange because normally on a motorcycle, when you slow down, you downshift and pull the clutch. Here, you only use the brake or the recuperation. I definitely need to get used to that.
We continue on through constantly changing weather, heading toward Lake Müggelsee. What's our impression after about 50 kilometers?
I have to say, first impression is really positive. There are definitely a lot of preconceptions involved. It's actually been a lot of fun to ride. It's very nimble, great in corners, very agile. Sure, it's not a horsepower monster, but in sport mode, it's really fun. I still need to test all the different modes properly, but so far, I really enjoyed the ride. Let's see if it stays that way.
We stop for lunch at the old waterworks before heading into the city center.
What I really like is the recuperation system. You basically twist the throttle forward, and the bike slows down. You get used to using that instead of downshifting and using the brakes. And apparently, you can recover quite a bit of energy that way. So far, we've actually used over half less range than distance covered, which is pretty cool. We'll test that more thoroughly later.
The weather stays unpredictable, and we arrive at the festival grounds in heavy rain.
Well, we've had everything today. Rain, sun. I'm completely soaked. But at least we've tested the bike's rain capability, which works just fine. Now, let's check out the festival. Hopefully it's dry inside.
Fortunately, the skies clear quickly. Reload land takes place at the Napoleon Complex, a roughly 5,000 square meter venue in former railway workshops with a cool industrial charm. We talk to organizer and founder Maximilian Funk.
Reload Land
has existed since 2022. This is our third event. It all started when I rode a rental scooter in Berlin. That was my first contact with electric two-wheel mobility. Curiosity grew and developed, and here we are.
Around 30 exhibitors are present, and about 1,500 visitors are expected.
Visitors can test ride almost everything here. That's very important to us that they can feel it. That runs from 10 to 6. We also host panel talks where we dive deep into the topics. We inform about battery development, talk to startup founders and engineers, basically educational work. Plus, we have international digital art and a curated custom exhibition with unique pieces that you cannot ride or buy.
Max shows us around, and we take a look at the bikes together.
The bikes here look really cool. The design, some of them are really futuristic. I like that. The location too, with this industrial style, is super stylish. What you do notice though, is that there are quite a few smaller machines. Mopeds and scooters for A1 or 125 license class machines, and fewer larger bikes. But that makes sense. The focus is on urban mobility, targeting a broad audience, especially commuters in city environments. And that's exactly where it makes sense to reduce local emissions.
At the Can-Am booth, we take a closer look at the Pulse and Origin. The brand aims to become the global market leader in electric motorcycles. We talk to Sebastian Martinez about the details.
We have been trying to see what was the perfect moment to come back into motorcycles. We were doing motorcycles in 1973 with the origin of a Can-Am, focusing really in off-road and dirt bikes. And then the brand went into silo for years. And then it came back, but with a side-by-side, three-wheel, and 4x4 ATVs. And we saw the perfect opportunity to have a rebirth of the brand and two wheels, because of electrification. It was the perfect moment to be at the same level of everybody and kind of try to be a few of the first ones to explore this technology. What we thought is that already the IC market was very competitive, and there's know-how that you need to create and competence. So we thought that it was better to start that with electrification. So we actually built R&D department specialized in electric propulsion, and started from there.
Can-Am belongs to Canadian company BRP, known for power sports products like ATVs, snowmobiles, and Sea-Doos, but they already built motorcycles back in the 1970s.
Like I said, Can-Am as a brand started in 1973. We were doing dirt bikes, so it was from 250, 350, 125, very, very off-road driven. We had some one called TNT, it was track and trail. So it was the road version of that. And for many years, we have a lot of success in racing, especially those times in the 70s. But then we stopped, the company BRP decided to focus their effort more in the airspace and trains. So that's why we stopped doing motorcycles, icy motorcycles. But the brand continued later on with the side-by-side big vehicles for all-terrain and the three-wheelers. But like I said, electrification was the perfect excuse to bring back the two wheels.
About 50 years later, they want to bring that spirit into the future. We return to the Pulse to fully experience the electric ride and check all the details.
I already got to take it for a short spin, but now let's take a closer look at this thing. At first glance, you don't even really notice that it's an electric motorcycle. It looks like a normal combustion engine bike. You even get the friendly nod from all the other riders. Of course, when you take a closer look, you'll notice there's no exhaust. But still, as for the design, I like it a lot. It looks modern and stylish. I actually like the yellow accented battery. It's pretty cool. And the wheels look great too. The only thing I don't find quite ideal is this long section here. It feels a bit too long somehow. And then this part here is a little too short in comparison. I also think the seat is just a touch too short. I always want to lean a bit further forward and slide back slightly. And at some point, you simply run out of seat if you want to ride in a sporty way. For me, it's still okay. But I think it could become problematic for taller riders. We'll bring in a design expert later to walk us through all the details and explain the thinking behind it. But first, we're going to take it out for a proper ride and also put the range to a real-world test.
We're testing the 47 horsepower version, equivalent to 35 kilowatts, suitable for the A2 license in Europe. There's also a 15 horsepower version for A1 or 125 cubic centimeters licenses. Base price, just under 13,000 euros.
As I mentioned earlier, you don't actually miss the sound as much as you might think at first. And honestly, let's be real. At 100 kilometers per hour on a country road, you're usually hearing more wind noise than engine sound anyway. But yeah, in the long run, I'd probably miss it. For me, sound is an important emotional factor. That deep, punchy rumble from a machine, I personally just love it. Over time, I think I really would start to miss that. What I do find pretty amazing, though, is that you basically have almost the same riding fun as on a combustion engine bike. It's always hard to explain to someone who doesn't ride motorcycles, but every biker will immediately know what I mean. That unique riding feeling, leaning into corners, feeling the acceleration of the machine, being in control of the bike, becoming one with it. It's simply unique. And you definitely get that here as well, no question about it.
The battery has a capacity of 8.9 kilowatt hours. The manufacturer claims up to 130 kilometers of range, up to 160 in the city. We started fully charged, but saw 118 kilometers displayed. Let's see how quickly the range is going to drop.
Personally, I have to say, I do kind of miss shifting gears a little bit. I mean, sure, it's super easy to handle because you don't have that whole clutch and throttle coordination going on. But for me, shifting is part of what makes riding a motorcycle so appealing. It's just part of the experience. I think that challenge, that skill involved in riding a motorcycle, is a big part of the fascination. It's not supposed to be easy peasy to master a bike. It takes a certain amount of ability, and that's part of the thrill. That's something that's missing here to some extent. On the other hand, it does make everything a whole lot easier.
There are 4 riding modes to choose from.
In eco mode, it honestly feels like nothing much is happening. I mean, sure, if you notice the range is getting low, you can cruise around in that mode and squeeze out a few more kilometers. But I definitely wouldn't recommend it if you want to overtake quickly on a country road. Normal mode is perfectly fine. I actually like that one. 47 horsepower isn't exactly a huge amount, but then again, it only weighs 177 kilograms. So that's totally okay. It still moves along pretty well. But yeah, sport mode is obviously the most fun for me. That's when it really takes off.
Of course, that also costs you range. Speaking of which, what's the current status? After just under 50 kilometers, the battery is already half empty, and we've got 56 kilometers left on the display. So we've lost about 10 kilometers more range than we've actually ridden. But since we were mostly riding on country roads, that's not really surprising. This bike isn't designed for long tours anyway. It's more of a city cruiser. And for spontaneous trips out into the wild, Can-Am has the Origin in its lineup.
In the essence, both bikes are intended to use as a daily commute. It's just that they have different personalities and capabilities. So the Pulse is very naked focus. It's like a street bike. So it was made to be very nimble, agile, and we believe is the right fit for a lot of new riders. So that's why it's small, perfect seat height for this to make people very comfortable as they approach the bike, they sit on it and they ride it. And on the other hand, the Origin is a dual purpose. So it inherited our roots with the off-road capabilities, but it has a twist to be used in city and off-road trips. The geometry and the foundation of the Origin is based in enduro bikes, but the sitting position, it's a little bit more straightforward, more comfortable. In terms of looks, well, with the suspension travel and the whole cluster on the front, it makes the styling different from the two.
The Origin has the same motor and performance figures as the Pulse, and also offers 2 additional off-road modes. However, it weighs 10 kilograms more and is just a touch slower in acceleration. According to the manufacturer, it has a range of up to 115 kilometers. Price, starting at 13,500 euros. Visually, both models go for a similar modern look and are clearly recognizable as part of the same family. In terms of colors, both are available in white, black, and silver.
In the essence, we wanted, as if we were starting to do a motorcycle, that from principle it looks like a motorcycle. So people can relate very quickly to something that they feel comfortable. But then is when you start to look more closely and try to decode what actually is happening that you realize is electric. And one of the key factors that we decided to emphasize a lot was the yellow in the battery. So we wanted to steer away from the black box, the typical black box, and we also took a lot of effort to make all the battery structure on the motorcycle and highlight that. After that, the aesthetics and the refinement of the surfaces that we decided to use, it was kind of a little bit on the productive execution. So if you look at the bikes, the gaps are very tight. There's not many overlay panels into each other. We wanted to feel that it's clean, but when you look at the bottom section, you find some intricacy, with the battery, the swing arm, and the welcoming area where the human actually interacts with the vehicle. It's more sculpted and hopefully more sexy.
The display is a 10.25-inch touchscreen with Bluetooth and Apple CarPlay.
One feature I find really practical is this small storage compartment here. You can put a few things in it. For example, a small water bottle or whatever you need. Another very pleasant aspect is the seat height. It's just under 79 centimeters, which makes it super easy for someone like me or riders who aren't that tall. The center of gravity is also very manageable. And the absolute coolest feature? The reverse gear. Yes, electric motorcycles actually have a reverse gear. To activate it, I first have to switch it back on, then press and hold the start button again. You'll hear two beeps. An R appears on the display. And when you twist the throttle forward, whoa, it goes straight backward. For maneuvering, that's obviously fantastic. Especially for riders who don't have that much physical strength, it's incredibly practical.
As for charging, the charging power is 6.6 kilowatts, and a Type 2 charging cable is included. With 240 volts, it takes about 50 minutes to charge from 20 to 80%, or 90 minutes from 0 to 100%. Using a standard household socket, you'll need 3 hours and 10 minutes to charge from 20 to 80%. Charging time and charging level can also be adjusted in the settings. You can regain a bit of range through regenerative braking, which can be adjusted in different levels.
So, on the one hand, it has passive regenerative braking. That means when I let go of the throttle, the bike slows down, basically like engine braking, and I can adjust the intensity of that. Then there's also active regenerative braking. When I twist the throttle forward, the motorcycle actively decelerates, and that's really intense. I can actually bring it all the way to a complete stop without even using the brakes. And if you use that consistently, you can definitely recover a bit of extra range here and there.
A real plus point, the battery, charger, and motor all feature innovative liquid cooling, which means the components don't overheat. That ensures consistently good charging times and steady power delivery. Another interesting detail is the single-sided swing arm design with an enclosed chain case. The advantages? The chain runs very quietly and requires little maintenance since it's protected from dirt and continuously lubricated inside the housing. There's even an automatic chain tensioner built in.
Our battery is almost empty now. We've only got 18 kilometers left, and the total estimated range hasn't really changed much. It's still just over 100 kilometers. So, as mentioned before, if you're riding mostly on country roads, you shouldn't expect to get much farther than 100 kilometers. However, I did several test rides during our overall test period, and at times it showed more. For example, 138 kilometers. That means it always depends a bit on your previous riding style, where you've been riding, and how. So overall, you can say that the manufacturer's claimed range of 130 kilometers is generally realistic. Let's sum up the pros and cons again. Disadvantage number 1, no sound. Disadvantage number 2, limited range and the waiting time while charging, which means it's only suitable for certain use cases, and maybe also the slightly reduced level of riding challenge. Now to the advantages. The lack of sound can also be a plus, of course, because it's quiet. So if I leave early in the morning, I'm not disturbing any neighbors. The lower level of challenge can also be seen as a benefit, since it makes the bike easy to handle and very beginner-friendly. It also offers some cool technical features. I really like the storage compartment and the reverse gear. And of course, it produces no local emissions.
So, what's our overall verdict in terms of electric motorcycles?
To sum it up, I have to say it was actually a lot more fun than expected. As a classic biker, you might go into it with a bit of prejudice, but it really does have a lot of positive qualities and is perfectly suited for certain use cases. So it's definitely worth just trying it out for yourself.
We head back to the Electric Motorcycle Festival in Berlin. As the highlight and grand finale of the event, it's time for the silent ride, a joint ride through Berlin with motorcycles and scooters, all powered by electricity, of course. The silent ride is a lot of fun, and we get to experience the unique spirit of the electric two-wheeler community up close.
Es
really is a tight-knit community. Of course, many of them have switched over. We all have a background with combustion engines, but we try to mix things a bit, and I think that's a very important part of how we communicate, because we don't want to exclude anyone. We don't want to be excluded either, but at the same time, we don't want to exclude others ourselves. I think that's a key point. We're offering something new, but we're not trying to replace anything. In the end, it's about sharing an experience together as a community.
Einfach, ja, gemeinschaftlich was zu erleben.
It was definitely a very eventful day, and for me, a new and exciting experience diving into the world of electric motorcycles. I think they really do offer a lot of riding fun. Whether the emotional factor is quite as strong as with combustion engine bikes is something everyone has to decide for themselves. But there are a lot of cool machines out there, and we're very curious to see how this scene continues to develop.